What's up, team? I am back in the building to bring you guys another movie review. Today, we will be reviewing Shazam. Yes, I got a chance to watch the film a little early. I'm happy about that. God is good. Now, let's go ahead and get into this movie review of Shazam. Let's talk about that first impression. Going into the theater, I have to say this film had good vibes. And I feel that Warner Brothers wanted this film to be as comic book accurate as possible. And for that, it put a smile on my face. Let's talk about story. Let's talk about script. Story. This is an origin film about Billy Batson acquiring these magical powers from the ancient wizard Shazam and learning how to be the world's mightiest mortal. That's the story. What do I think about the story? Well, I'm gonna lay it out for you really simple. This was a basic origin story. And I like the way that they stayed true to the comic book. The blueprint was set perfect for the audience, as far as we know who the character is. We know why the character does what he does. We know why the villain is there. We understand what the villain is all about. We get it. The story was basic, but it filled in a lot. And it didn't have you wondering. And it didn't contradict itself at all. The story was cool. Basic, but it was cool. Let's talk about the script. What I think about the script? Well, this isn't your everyday superhero type of movie, right? And the script was designed to appeal to multiple audience. And I think the script did a real good job of blending those elements in there. I mean, we had some comedy, we had some drama, action, and then superhero. The script was really thought out well when it comes to those elements, because you knew when to laugh, you knew when stuff was about to go down, you understood. The dialogue wasn't too corny, and I'm gonna talk about that too. The dialogue wasn't too corny, but we got it, you know what I mean? And it was, I feel it was accepted. You kind of get the gist of what this movie's about, you know what I mean? Like, the story laid the plot out so well that you understand what you're getting. And the script was able to deliver that with the story, which made it really good together. It made a great combination. Usually with superhero movies, you don't get that. You know, you either get a good story and then a terrible script, or you get a good script and a terrible story, because they either contradict each other. But this film didn't do that. It was able to really draw out a lot of dialogue for the characters. You got some emotions through the script too. You understood the script. Script was good. Wasn't phenomenal, but it was good because it had corny elements in it. It had doofy things, you know what I mean? But the script did its job as well as the story. Let's talk about the acting. Shazam. I'm gonna say that enough, and I'm gonna turn to a mighty mortal. I'm just saying. But anyway, the acting. I'm gonna just go ahead and say this out right now. Don't hate me, but this is just what it is. I did not like Zachary Levi's Shazam. I didn't like his Captain Marvel. I didn't like it. I gave it a chance. I sat there and watched it, but he just didn't fit that suit for me. No pun intended. He looked corny in it. Like, maybe he was supposed to, but when I see Shazam, Captain Marvel, I don't really necessarily see corny. I see old, but I don't see cornball. I don't see that. And that's what he was. You know what I mean? You're the world's mightiest mortal, but it just didn't feel right. His facial expressions were off. His meaningful scenes were a little lame. You didn't feel anything from him. You know what I mean? Everybody else, I think, did a really good job. I'm going to talk about him. But Zachary Levi's portrayal was just corny. And maybe it was because the muscle suit, you know what I mean? It was just, it didn't feel authentic. It didn't feel organic. It felt forced. It felt Comic-Con. It just didn't feel right. It's not that he did a bad job. Like, he said his cues and stuff. You know, he did his thing. You know, when it came to, like, I'll say, action scenes, showing his powers, he did a good job. But I have to give that more to director. You know what I mean? Not really about him. That was the director's shots catching those, having those situations go down. But just seeing him was kind of cringing. Like, I was like, man, I guess I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm not going to nitpick at him because maybe they're going for this and maybe he's doing a great job for what they're going with. But I'm just like, I want him to get better. I see the potential, but I see him being replaced. Like, you know what I mean? He could be better, but he also could be replaced. Either way, I'll be happy. And I just think Zachary Levi, he just didn't feel right. He didn't feel right. He didn't, to me, he didn't give me the superhero. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I have to go into a world where, you know how all kids are, grown-ups too. Like, you know, when you see these icons on the big screen and then you finally see them in real life, do they scream hero or they scream actor? And to me, he doesn't scream neither one. Like, I'm not looking at him as an actor. I'm not looking at him as a hero. I'm like, oh, that's Zachary Levi. That's the guy that played him. And I'm just going about my life. You know what I mean? So it's nothing. It's no hate towards him. It's just, I just didn't feel it. I just didn't feel it off of him. The young kid that played Billy Batson, I think his name is Asher Angel. He did a good job. He did a good job being an orphan, being worried, trying to figure out life, being troubled. You know, a little punk at some parts, but showing caring. You know, he did a good job, and I like the way they used the New 52 storyline with this type of character. Because the character I grew up on, he would have been terrible because it would have been Sideways. But I like the way they used that one, and he was able to show me something. He gave me something. I see potential in this kid. And moving forward with these Shazam films, I can see him being even better. I like that about him. I want to see. It sucks when you see Billy Batson, and then he transforms into Shazam, and you lose that. You're not in touch with him anymore, and it shouldn't be that way. And I think that was on Zachary Levi's part, combining with these two characters. It just didn't feel right. It's like this kid is serious and all this, and maybe it's because he's just a kid, and when he becomes Captain Marvel, Shazam, he's more of, you know, free because he has powers. Maybe that's what they were going for. I don't know, but it was obvious, and I personally didn't like it. The star of this movie for me, I'm just freaking tight, man. And I don't think Hollywood gives him enough credit. This man has been in multiple comic book films, and he's just phenomenal in everything he does. Mark Strong as Dr. Thaddeus Savannah was freaking phenomenal. He made this movie tight. He was the villain that I needed. I have to say it, and there's no pun intended, no shot at Marvel, nothing. DC has portrayed some of the best villains I've ever seen, and this make number 2 as far as the DCFU. Mark Strong's Dr. Savannah was just beautiful. I loved it. I loved seeing him. It was like he was an actor, and he showed enviness. He showed us why he's that dude. And when you guys see the trailer, and when he showed that power, how he used it, screamed villain. His dialogue, how he approached it, his dialogue in that script, he approached it in such a dramatic form. It was serious. He was able to turn this corny movie into a serious drama action hero movie when he showed up. And I love that. I was like, damn, this is fucking dope. Mark Strong is tight. Mark Strong, bruh, you're gonna get one of these. That's for Shazam. That's for Green Lantern, Sinestro, bruh. I ain't forget about that. I'm combining both those. You're phenomenal, bruh. That's for Kick-Ass 2. This guy's great. And that's for Kingsman Secret Service. Let's go in and do another game. I don't forget. Mark Strong's a dope actor, man. And he showed his ass in this film. I want to see more of him. I want to see more of him in the DCFU. I want to see more of his character. It's time to combine these characters together and give me one of those epic villain team-ups, man. I want to see it. Mark Strong did a phenomenal job in this movie. I don't have all the cast name, but I will say some of the orphans, the little girl, the little black girl, I loved her in this movie. I loved that little girl in this movie. It got to a point where I was like, my next kid I want to adopt. That's how great she was. I was like, oh my gosh. Oh, it was she played it so well. I want a big brother. Oh my gosh. I gotta adopt now. You know what I mean? It was like that. It was that serious. Like, dang, I feel for her, man. Oh, I want to take her home, man. I want to be the big brother you need. You know what I mean? I want to be that dad figure, man. I love the orphan vibe of this movie. I love the orphan vibe of this movie. And the other kid, the guy that played Freddie Freeman, Jack Gazer, I think that's his name, Jack Gazer. I believe he was in It. He was in It. He did a great job as Freddie Freeman. I loved his character in Freddie Freeman, in Shazam as Freddie Freeman, because he was able to show us what we are as kids. He was able to show us what we are as kids. And I thought it was really dope seeing that, because it's like we forget as grown-ups, right? And for him to go to a character like Billy Batson, who is trying to, I guess, be grown, but still let him remember that you're still a kid, and being a kid at heart. And even though you're a kid at heart, it's still dope seeing, because it's like I could be better. And seeing him was just really dope. You know, just seeing this kid, this crippled kid, yo, and looking up to these superheroes, it made me really remember why I love these heroes. You know what I mean? And he showed a great energy and boldness of it in this movie. And I loved him. I loved him. For the most part, the cast was really cool. It really worked with the script and the directing. It really worked. Now, let's talk about directing. I'm gonna be honest. The directing was up and down. And I guess it's because of what the script wrote, with the corniness. And some of the things look whack. But what made the directing really epic is when it got to action. Let me make sure I got his name. David Sandberg directed this film, and I think he did a great job of mimicking Man of Steel when it comes to fights. Now, it ain't as good as Zack Snyder's Man of Steel, but knowing that you can use that as a blueprint and then try to put it in another film, I think was very phenomenal. I think when Dr. Savannah came into place, his directing with Mark Strong was really strong. You see something in that. They were able to. What makes the directing in the script really combine was that certain scenes, and I'm thinking about it. Certain scenes really made sense, right? They mixed it in with comedy, but it made logical sense. He had a lot of logical action, a lot of logical comedy, and I think when the way he directed it, it really brought it to life. However, there were certain things where it fell flat, where the logical and the comedy just didn't mix. It was kind of like, man, that's stupid. Why would you do that? But you know what I mean? That's just a grown-up mentality. But for a younger audience, it's phenomenal. That's the trickiness. His directing style could be good for grown-ups and children. At the same time, as a grown-up, you acknowledge it, but your child won't, because it's Shazam. And he gets a pass from that. I understand it, but I don't have to like it. You know what I mean? I get it. Let's talk about the music. The score was okay, not memorable. This movie didn't give. Maybe it's Zachary Levi, man. His heroic scenes just didn't feel heroic. I'm just being honest. It didn't feel heroic. It didn't feel like I was placed in that world where it was like, okay, this is my Superman. You know what I mean? Personally, as a grown-up, I can't see myself looking up to him, and mixing in with the action and with the score, it just didn't mash well. And I guess that's why the score kind of wasn't memorable, because even him as a character just was kind of like seeing something but not feeling it, and that's what took me out of it, a lot of it. Pros and cons. Pros and cons. I'm gonna say my cons first. The cons of this movie. This is just 100. You can call it what you want. The con of this movie is Zachary Levi. From his haircut to his bodysuit to the design of the suit, just was whack. It was whack, and I think that's what pulled me out of it. You know what I mean? It was like, wait till y'all watch it. Wait till y'all, when y'all watch it, y'all gonna see, because I'm gonna do a spoiler review. I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, but when you see certain things and it looks right, and then you see this and you're like, you're like, you know what I mean? He was a con for me. You know, I can't see him being part of Aquaman, Supes, and Wonder Woman. I can't see it. He's gonna have, something's gonna have to change. And I know who Captain Marvel is. You know what I'm saying? And it's just, I understand where they were going with him, but I think they took it too much, too corny with him. And I think the bodysuit is the real cringing thing. It's a scene in there, man. It just threw you out of it. It was like, damn, they did that. Let's keep moving. You know what I mean? It was like that. Another con of the movie, I'll have to say, it really wasn't the wizard. He was played, I can't say his name. I think it's Dejamon. Dejman. I think it's Dejman. I hope I said it right. Y'all know I'm a star. His wizard could have been better. It 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 was kind of like, you know, my boy X-Files was like, man, why you have no dreadlocks? And I was like, because then they're going to think he's static. And he was like, you right. So, but I see that he just didn't feel in that. Him and, they just didn't, they were too corny. They were too corny, man. They were too corny. Like, I'm okay with him being the wizard. Don't get me wrong. I just thought his costume should have been better. Like, he had that wig on and stuff, man. It just didn't feel right. It didn't feel right. But for the most part, a lot of the cons is the actor. Some of the situations was kind of like, I don't know. But it does fall into place very well. Pros, Mark Strong. Straight up, Mark Strong, the after credit, seeing the future of this film, a potential future of this film, which was very dope. There's a part in this movie that was like, whoa, they dropped a lot of Easter eggs in here. And another pro for me is how accurate the comic books reference were. And I loved it. Because as a fan of Captain Marvel and seeing certain people, certain characters, certain creatures in this film, you're like, whoa, they're about to take it to that level. And I know some of the audience was kind of like, what the fuck? What is this? That's weak. But me as a fan, I was like, yes, give me that sheet. You know what I mean? So they did a lot of fan service. That's a big pro. I just wanted to be blended in better. Now it's time to grade this film. Shazam! What do I give this film, Shazam? It had some cons, and I think one of the cons were was the star of the movie, quite frankly. Fell flat for me. It satisfied me as a grown-up, and it satisfied me as a comic book fan, but the long-term value of it is really not there. It can be rewatchable moving forward with other films where you have to reference back to it. Personally, I don't see a lot of people just stepping foot in this. The audience experience was really cool. It was really dope. I had a good time. I believe this movie is really for, you know, I wouldn't say kids, but kids that understands, you know, mature children. You know what I mean? I thought it was really cool. I'm gonna give this movie Shazam. This is hard. My fan in me is saying this, and then the logical Jay is saying, and then the fan is saying, but 4K, and then the logical is like, nigga, please, and then it's like, C plus. Fuck, it's all right. Don't beat me up. I want to go get B minus. C plus, y'all. I give this movie a high. It's a high C plus because it does superhero justice as far as a film, but the superhero wasn't the justice. It was everything else. It hurt the movie. I swear, if Zachary Levi's character was just that on point, this movie could have been a B plus. Wouldn't be an A, but it could have been a B plus at the most. But his Shazam was just whack. His Shazam was whack. It looked cool seeing him fly and fight, but he was just whack. He was whack. I can't fight the funk with this guy. Hope you guys enjoyed the review. I keep that as real as possible. If you've seen Shazam, do not spoil this movie for anybody. There will be a spoiler review for you to go into that chat and chat it up. If you see Shazam, tell me your grade and tell me why without spoiling the movie. Alright? Hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you're new to the channel, push that subscribe button. Thumbs this video up. And don't forget to share Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. J3 out.
Hens love roosters, geese love ganders, everyone else loves Ned Flanders.